News Review, your daily source for the most critical stories in the financial world. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.
Spain opened its borders to most European countries and ended a state of emergency imposed to contain the coronavirus on June 21st. Spaniards were allowed to move freely around the country, and many were expected to visit friends, relatives, and second residences in other regions. Main roads around Madrid were progressively filling up with traffic, while dozens of travelers seen at a Atocha train station leaving the Spanish capital. In his final address during the state of emergency, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez praised Spaniards on Saturday, June 20th, for coming together during one of Europe's strictest lockdowns, but warned they should remain vigilant as there could be a second wave. Spain, which has recorded more than 245,000 coronavirus cases and over 28,000 deaths, has been easing its lockdown restrictions in recent weeks.
Filippo Gori, CEO for JP Morgan Asia Pacific, said he sees the Chinese economy is on track to recovery given the recently announced economic indicators. China's economic rebound, he said, signals a sign for the recovery of the world economy. Noticing the strict lockdowns China has imposed are steadily being relaxed in recent months, the normalization that is happening in China, Gori said, is an encouraging trend for the country. The policy commitments and timely intervention by monetary authorities in China, he said, have offered another hand for the recovery of the economy. Gori ascribed his optimistic expectation to his company's future in China, as well as to China's monetary policy.
Shopping malls in Peru are welcoming customers for the first time in just over 3 months. Stores reopened Monday to half their normal capacity, and limitations on time allowed for shopping in each store. Police on horseback cleared informal sellers from Lima streets on Monday, June 22nd, as shopping centers received the all clear to open up again, despite COVID-19 deaths topping 8,000. Shoppers were only allowed inside after a temperature check, and their shoes and hands were sanitized. Peru's gradual reopening is taking place as the country remains one of the worst impacted nations by the coronavirus in Latin America, with just over 8,000 deaths and more than 254,000 infections. Last week, Peru's central bank slashed its economic outlook for the country, estimating annual contraction of 12.5% in 2020, the nation's worst decline in a century. The economic forecast made in the bank's delayed quarterly report was down from a previous prediction of 2.3% growth for the year made before the global health crisis.
Australian tourism has taken a battering throughout 2020 with the devastating bushfires earlier this year and the unprecedented impact of the pandemic, putting the squeeze on operating costs and shrinking businesses for the first time in almost 3 decades. Amidst the turndown, the travel sector has been hardest hit. Julie Avery, the manager of a Melbourne travel agency, said she's witnessed the sharp drop in business since mid-March. The decline came after Australian air company Qantas announced it would stop most international flights on March the 19th, 2 days after the government ordered it would close its borders to all foreigners due to the outbreak of the disease. More domestic flights were also drastically cancelled as the outbreak situation worsened, and local companies troubled, including a ride-hailing business in Melbourne run by Kel Costello. During the 2018 to 2019 fiscal year, the Australian tourism industry contributed some 60.8 billion Australian dollars to the country's GDP. In 2019, the number of Chinese tourists ranked first among all foreigners that visited Australia, with travel restrictions meaning a considerable loss in business. With double-digit increases in the cases of COVID-19, Australia's second most populous state, Victoria, recently announced it would extend its state of emergency to July the 19th as it looks to get on top of the epidemic. Tuesday, 23rd June, marks the fourth anniversary of the day the United Kingdom voted in a referendum to leave the European Union. Brexit formally took place on January 31st, but the UK is still in transition period in which it follows EU laws and benefits from single market membership until the end of the year. Both sides are trying to thrash out an agreement on a future relationship, including an ambitious free trade deal. But after 4 rounds of negotiations amid the epidemic, Boris Johnson and EU leaders, including Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, held a virtual summit in order to break the deadlock. The ramifications of the vote are still being played out, with a deal on how Brexit will happen being negotiated. Britain has until the end of the year to sign a new trade agreement with the EU when a transition period following its exit from the bloc comes to an end. Although much remains to be discussed, both parties have signalled progress, with EU chief negotiator Michel Barnier saying earlier this month that the talks will be stepped up in July, August and September.
Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti said on Monday, June 22nd, Los Angeles International Airport will install thermal cameras to check passengers for fever in an attempt to keep air travel safe during the coronavirus pandemic and get the airport busy again. Garcetti said the thermal camera technology pilot program would identify travelers with body temperatures of 38 degrees Celsius or more, one of the leading symptoms of COVID-19. Los Angeles International Airport is one of the busiest airports in the world, and outside of the pandemic, it had nearly 90 million passengers per year. Thermal cameras have been used in airports around the world during the SARS virus and swine flu outbreaks. Garcetti described LAX's measures as a voluntary program and said there would still be other methods being used to ensure passenger safety.
After more than 100 days of lockdown, New York City residents on Monday, June the 22nd, were able to celebrate their progress in curbing the coronavirus pandemic by getting their haircuts, shopping at all long-closed stores, and dining at outdoor cafes. Once the epicenter of the global outbreak, the city was the last region in New York State to move into phase 2 of reopening, with restaurants offering outdoor service along with the reopening of many shops. Barber shops and hair salons welcomed customers for the first time since mid-March. Playgrounds were reopened Monday in the most populous U.S. city, and neighboring New Jersey allowed sports like golf and tennis to resume practice and competitions on Monday, and permitted sports considered higher risk, such as baseball and football, to start no-contact practices and drills. New Jersey also gave the green light for salons, barbershops, and other personal care businesses to reopen on Monday with restrictions.
Rare-colored diamonds and historic gems will be under the hammer at Sothebys' semi-annual sale in Geneva this week, as it resumes live auctions after a suspension due to the coronavirus pandemic. David Bennett, Sotheby's worldwide jewellery chairman, said that during the lockdown, Sotheby's saw a massive surge in its online jewellery sales. Bennett said lots on offer at its Geneva sale include a Cartier diamond bracelet with geometric shapes and leaves from the 1930s. Sotheby's said an emerald and diamond necklace which belonged to Consuelo Montego of 1853 to 1909 is estimated to fetch 300,000 to 320,000 Swiss francs. A blue step cut diamond weighing 3.01 carats, graded fancy vivid, is estimated at 4.2 million to 6.3 million francs. A fancy intense pink diamond weighing 7 carats is estimated at 2.4 million to 3.4 million Swiss francs.
Business Review, your daily source for the most critical financial stories. Tune in next time for the latest financial news impacting the world economy.